is Doug DeMuro, and today I am going to explain how I drag raced my Mercedes-Benz E450 All-Terrain station wagon with 3-row seating and a baby seat in the back against a Ferrari F40. This actually happened. Let's do it. Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids, which is my enthusiast car auction website for cool cars from the modern era with free listings. You can list your cool car for free and auction it on Cars and Bids. And you should, because we've had some great sales lately, including this Ferrari 458, which sold for just under $205,000, this wonderful Bentley Continental Super Sports, which brought just under $160,000, and this great Chevy Impala SS Old School sold for just over $25,000. If you're looking to buy or sell a cool enthusiast car from the modern era, the 1980s and up, Cars and Bids is the place to do it. With daily auctions, great selection, and free listings, check it out, carsandbids.com. Okay, so I drag raced my Mercedes wagon against an F40. Now, I want to provide two important pieces of background here. One, the Mercedes wagon that I drag raced against this F40 was not an AMG high-performance model. It was not an E63 wagon. I posted a picture of the start of this drag race on Instagram, and a lot of people are asking this question. Oh, did you race against an E63? No. No. Like the title of this video says, like I already said in this video, I raced F40 against my Mercedes wagon, which is this E450 All-Terrain. This is my new daily driver car. I announced a few months ago that I had bought a new everyday car, a new family car, and it was this E450 All-Terrain. And that's the car that I raced against the F40. As a refresher, the E450 All-Terrain is an all-wheel drive family station wagon with a hybrid turbo 6-cylinder, 3-row seating, and I drag raced it against the F40. Now, I'm being very clear here because I want to make it obvious, this is just my car. I didn't go and get some performance car or whatever. I just took my normal car with ground up Cheerios in the back seat and ran against the F40. Now, the other thing to mention here, a lot of people are going to ask, why did I show up to a drag racing event where an F40 was present in my Mercedes E450 All-Terrain? So the simple answer is this. The PETERSEN Museum in LA, like an awesome, amazing museum of awesome, amazing cars. The PETERSEN Museum organizes this amazing drag racing event so they can make some cool videos for their YouTube channel. And you should absolutely check out their YouTube channel and these videos. They're awesome. I will link below. So they invited me to come up there and both participate and kind of like commentate, like make some announcements, some introductions in the videos, like sort of be the, you know, the host of these videos, if you will. So I was like, this sounds like an exciting thing, but the problem was that the prior day before this drag race thing, I had an event in Joshua Tree with Ford. Now that's about 300 miles away from where the runway event is. And then the Ford event is like 150 miles from my house. And then the runway is another 300 miles from my house. So I had to drive 150 miles to the Ford thing, 300 miles to the runway, then 300 miles home. And I wasn't really looking forward to doing that, most of which was done in heavy Southern California traffic in this car or in my Ford GT. I just decided I'm going to come to this thing, I'm going to watch and enjoy, and I will just drive my comfortable car 800 miles in 2 days in Southern California traffic. So I brought my wagon, and as I'm on my way to the event, I start to think to myself, you know, I bet this is faster than the F40. I knew the F40 was going to be there, and I thought, I'd bet that this is faster than an F40. Like, I know how fast my wagon is, and I know how fast an F40 is on paper, and I know the F40 is a little faster on paper, but it's an F40. Right? Nobody is really gonna just jam on the throttle and dump the clutch and have a crazy start and like really launch an F40. Like that's not gonna happen. But my station wagon with all-wheel drive and automatic transmission, pretty easy to launch. And I don't really care if it breaks, right? Whereas an F40, you're like worried every time you're doing anything. You're like, oh, I don't know. So I decided that maybe this would be an interesting race. Like the F40 should be a little quicker, but like reality is different than magazine 0 to 60 times. I wonder what would actually happen. So I get there, and the theme for the day is like 80s and 90s supercars, and the owner of the F40 runs the Caretaker's collection social media, and I'll link them in the description below. Amazing group of cars. It's just a collection of some of the most awesome and special modern and sort of vintage supercars. It's a truly, truly incredible collection. I reviewed a Maserati MC12 that this collection had, and so I knew the owner of the cars, and we were kind of buddies, and so I get there, and I'm looking at the F40, and I'm kind of start giving him some crap. I'm like, I think my dad car would beat the F40. We're in this drag race event. And he's kind of like giving me some crap back. We're like, finally we decide, all right, forget it, let's do it. Let's do 3 races, one after another, and that will determine, 3 races enough to determine which car is actually faster. One of the greatest supercars of all time, or my station wagon with crushed Cheerios between the seats. So, first run comes up, and, well, here's what happened. So I win the first run. I take a pretty big victory in that first run, and I am feeling confident. And I'm sitting there like, the owner of this F40, he's afraid. He doesn't want to push it too hard. And I get that. But my wagon, I'm sitting there and I can just like put the brake down, put the gas down, and go, right? It's easy by comparison. And it's an automatic transmission. I have it in sport mode. It goes to the highest rev and then it upshifts. It's easy to do, but it's funny that here I am against one of the greatest iconic supercars ever, and I just beat it in a drag race with a normal car. Again, not an AMG, just a regular hybrid Mercedes station wagon. So I'm feeling pretty confident after the first run, and then we line up for a second.
Oh, no!
So the second run didn't quite go as well, but I have to say, I was feeling so confident after the first run that in the second run I decided, you know what, I don't have to be as aggressive. And so like, if you watch the video carefully, you can actually see me trimming the steering a little at the start, like I'm turning a little, which you don't want to do in a drag race, but I thought I'd beat him by so much it wouldn't matter. But what happened was, in the first run, the owner of the F40 Caretaker's collection, he decided he didn't want to get beaten again by my dad's station wagon, and so he decided to give it even more juice. So I'm sitting there like, la-di-da, steering the car, and he is giving it more energy, and so he beats me. So now the third race matters, right? Like I won the first one, he wins the second one. Like this third race is gonna prove who is actually better. We both didn't really give it our all in the respective races that we did, but the third one, we know there's a lot at stake because these cars were actually pretty close. And so we run the third one.
Go, 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 go! Come on! No! 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 Woo! Dude, that was so close.
And yes, you can see once again, he beats me. Now, it's important to understand here, when you're watching this at home, you're like, the F40 killed that station wagon. But really, that's not quite what happened. If you are in the drag racing world, you'll know this is a pretty quick amount of time between when the F40 crosses the line and when the station wagon crosses the line. It's like a couple of tenths of a second, a car length or two. And it won, but not like by, it's an iconic all-time, like it didn't win by that much, but it certainly won. I don't want to take that away from it, but it's interesting. Like you watch the videos and you think, well, he crushed it, but we're talking about a couple tenths of a second here, maybe a half second in difference in a quarter mile between F40 and E450. So in the end, we determined a couple of interesting things here. Number one, the F40 is indeed faster than my station wagon, which, by the way, is what it says on paper. Apparently, my station wagon does the quarter mile in like the low 13s. The F40 would do it in the low 12s if maximized. Now, I think I was probably getting relatively close to those times in the station wagon because there's not much variability. In the F40, obviously wasn't quite the situation. Also, the F40 had done a few runs before this. It gets hot, it's not gonna be quite as fast. Cooler, denser air, especially for a turbocharged car, is gonna make it a little bit quicker. And so I suspect that contributed a little bit to the F40 maybe slowing down a little bit also. But the F40 is faster, but not by an enormously wide margin. And so the other thing we discovered here was time is interesting, isn't it? The F40 is now 30 to 35 years old, depending on the model year. And my station wagon's brand new, it's a 22. And the most iconic, fastest, most incredible supercar of its day will be beaten by a simple family car in just a couple of decades. Now, just a couple of decades is not that, it's still some time. But like the F40 is one of the all-time greats, and my station wagon is just a little bit behind it. And it is interesting to see how time does that. And you're sitting here like, yeah, of course, you idiot. But like, think about that really. Like, it only took 25 years for the greatest supercar in the world to be overtaken by a base model, simple, and it's a Mercedes, so it's fast. No, it's a 6-cylinder hybrid. It's not that special of a car. And we're starting to see that with this car too, Carrera GT, one of the all-time greatest sports cars, exotic cars, supercars, all these accolades. Everybody considers it top 10 supercars ever made. Well, you know what? This does 0 to 60 in 3.6. A new Audi RS3 is faster. And it's only been 17 years. And the RS3 is obviously a performance car, but you're starting to see that performance erode. This car was considered a death trap when it came out. The fastest, most uncontrollable car. And now, like, cars are faster. Like, you can go and lease a car that's faster than this, you know? And obviously these cars are about a lot more than straight line speed, but it does give you an interesting insight into one reality of life, which is just that time eventually comes, and it doesn't matter how good you think you are, how fast you think you are, how fit you think you are, someone comes along younger and newer and they beat you. And so F40 did beat E450, but we're talking about a small margin. Obviously in '88, it would have been 10, 20 car lengths ahead, many seconds ahead of a Mercedes wagon. But over time, it's just what happens. It's just what happened. But it was really interesting to actually see that play out in real time, sitting there watching like the greatest against a normal car. And I think that actually illustrates one of my favorite things about these increasingly older exotic and special sports cars. They're not that fast by modern standards. They're really not. Like, it just isn't there. I mean, a Plaid, Tesla Model S Plaid will destroy this, and an F40, and an F50, and an Enzo, whatever you want to throw at it, it's faster. And I think the interesting thing is those cars start to be desirable not just because of their speed, but because of their character, and because of their essence, and because of their feel. And F40 is obviously way more desirable than my station wagon. It's not about the speed anymore. It was when it came out, but it has transcended that and is now about like the specialness of it, the iconic feel of it. And that is what makes a car special as it ages, not the performance, as you can see, because eventually it'll be beaten.